G'day, Dan here. So, just spent a day doing a bit of research actually, and going over some old stuff and thoughts. But I wanted to really ask the question. I've asked it a little bit in regards to colleagues of mine in the past, people I've worked with. Just a real question in regards to how parents or anyone, retiree, families in general are feeling about what's going on in the world. I think there's some conversations that aren't being had. That if I can be a vessel, so to speak, to start these conversations, I'll definitely step up to do that. And I've been involved with the technology side of things after some epiphanies 7 odd years ago, and then I've gone backwards and forwards with my proactive and concerns, I suppose you could say, in regards to what we adopt, the governance of that, who's in charge, there's a few issues in regards to data security and sovereignty and our privacy. And I sort of went back to a little bit of what people are prepared to give away, and we noticed a bit of that in COVID-19 in terms of some acceptability of certain things that are being done to us, whoever it's done by. And in terms of some of the research, I'm going to drop a podcast that I did with help by AI. I'm going to start doing some interactive ones with those as well. A bit of a blend, but long story short, I wanted to sort of hone in on the jobs satisfaction. I know when I had some epiphany 7 odd years ago when I set up Unified Purpose, that Tony Robbins was talking about with the self-education business with Dean Graciosi when they launched that business, around people to be able to help monetize their skills and their superpowers, long story short. They were talking about the self-education business and giving statistics on university. And at that point in time, there was 30% of people that were, after doing their 4 or 5 years university, getting placed into the line of work that they did their study. And out of those, there was 50% that was actually satisfied. So, and it ended up being, from the statistics working out, I think it was about 13 to 15% of people actually being satisfied in their job. Now, that could have been, as I think they were saying then, like people may have been in families, lawyers, doctors and whatnot, and followed that suit, or were pushed into that sort of route and not happy when they ended up doing it. So you're looking at a small percentage, and I haven't got the statistics. I'm going to listen to a few of these tonight, but in terms of not going to uni, whether it's TAFE here in Australia or I'm not quite sure what it is in other parts of the world. I've done a couple of research here in Australia and then overseas as well. But I suppose when it comes down to it, is that satisfaction is a starting point for now, for the current, or that was sort of over the last 7 years. And a big part of what's spurred me on in terms of the academy and having, tools, I suppose, to make getting into the knowledge business and what Tony Robbins and that was teaching and still do today, and many others, about, how your skill sets and your backstory can ultimately create the foundation of a community, which any business, even an established business, needs today to adjust their business model. And that leads into the second point of, the automation and jobs loss, AI, that's occurring. And for me, where I've got sort of torn is a little bit on I'll give you an example. And I used to talk to friends and family about this, where optometrists at this point in time, and this was again 6 or 7 years ago, but optometrists diagnosing eye disease at this point in time, considering they had appointments of maybe 15 appointments per day in person, doing eye diagnosis of eye disease. It could be 20, let's just say, whatever. But when you consider that, and then you would consider that they did some tests where if you put two optometrists next to each other, they'd disagree with each other 60% of the time. And if you had the same optometrist and gave them an eye now, and you gave them an eye image in an hour, they would disagree with themselves 30% of the time. And at this point in time, I think AI was able to do a few million scans of images per day. And at that point in time, had about a 97% success rate of diagnosing eye disease. So I realised at that point in time, there was obviously some benefits in technology advancing and whatnot. But then, you know, for example, an optometrist, they still needed to be there for an appointment and whatnot, but the maths speaks for itself, doesn't it? So you could go down a whole list, and I'll create a list of this, you know, the pros and the cons. Sort of already started, but at the end of the day, what are the conversations we're having, and what's the, you know, if you're going to get a handout of, let's talk about universal basic income, but, you know, who's controlling that? Is it the large organisations that now have a monopoly on all this opportunity, that have automated things? And yeah, what do we do on a grassroots level? What do we do with our time? So, yeah, I think there's some conversations that need to be had, and I'm interested, I suppose, to get some feedback from those that see this video of your thoughts, whether you've been impacted, whether you've heard about it in your industry, and if you're a business owner, in terms of automating people out of a job with those people that you form relationships with, what do you feel is an alternate to just putting those people out of a job, considering that you could probably get involved and use your skills to help them get into business and maybe go into partnership, things I've thought about, and sort of expand. I see more opportunities for competing with the big organisations to do more joint ventures and have sort of sideways projects with people that used to work with you or for you. And I think some of these tools and whatnot available can assist people to have their own monetization and not rely on handouts, so to speak. But yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet, and interested to hear some feedback, and just keep an eye out, look out for some of this other content coming. Thank you. We'll talk soon.